Now, it's a curious thing, you know. Common anxiety disorder is agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is a generalized anxiety disorder, and people who suffer severely from agoraphobia often get to the point where, because of their panics, they're housebound. They can't go outside their room or their house. Now, they'd run away from their room or their house too if they could, but there's nowhere to run, so they're pretty much stuck being somewhere. So, an agoraphobic comes in for therapy. I think, well, what do you do with them? And you say, well, the agoraphobic says, I can't go on elevators. And you say, okay, well, let's go try. And you say, all right, well, relax. So you teach the person to breathe, which really doesn't help that much, but it makes them feel better. You can do this without teaching them to relax. It doesn't matter a bit, but it does help them feel better. You say, okay, well, there's the elevator. You say, how close can you get to the elevator? You say, well, I can't really get more than like 20 feet, that's maximum. I said, well, okay, let's just go up to 20 feet there, and they do that, and then you let them stand there, and stand there, and stand there, and stand there, and stand there. Sooner or later, they get bored of being 20 feet from the elevator. And then you say, well, look, could you go 10 feet? No, I couldn't go 10 feet. That's too close. How about, could you go 3 more feet? Yeah, I think I could do that. So they go 3 more feet, and then you let them stand there. And they find out nothing terrible is happening sooner or later. And then they go another 3 feet, and then they go another 3 feet. And then they're like confronting the elevator. And then they're inside the elevator, but they're going like this, because they don't want to look at the elevator, right? So you say, well, you got to look at the elevator, you got to look at the numbers, you got to look at the buttons. So they do that. And then you think, well, could we go up a floor? No, we couldn't go up a floor. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. We'll just close the door, I'll put my hand in, it'll open again. Could you do that? Yeah, I could do that. Step by step. Sooner or later, and usually sooner, bang, they've gone up a floor, right? So then what happens? They go home and have a fight with their husband that's been brewing for like 15 years. Why? Well, it's not because the elevator is symbolically related to the fight. It has nothing to do with it. It's because what the person learns in the combat with the unknown, which just happens to be taking the guise of an elevator, is that they can confront things that frighten them without being destroyed by the confrontation. And so what you see immediately, and this was contrary to an original psychoanalytic prediction, is that, man, you take that person out and you teach them they can go in the elevator, and right off the bat they're going to shopping malls, they're in taxis, they're back in the subway, and they're standing up for themselves at home. Generalization. Why? Because they didn't learn that the elevator wasn't frightening. That isn't what they learned. They learned that despite the fact that the elevator was as terrifying as anything they've ever encountered, they were actually up to the challenge. And now that's a really useful thing to teach someone, right? Because if you have an obsessive compulsive patient, I had one who actually used to work with radiation. Now he worked in some kind of biolab in Montreal. People with obsessive compulsive disorder are often very frightened that they'll contaminate someone else. So like typical obsessive compulsive obsession would be, I'll go to a shopping market, I'll touch some fruit from some third world country, I'll get some nasty bacterial disease, I'll bring it home and I'll give it to my kids. Well, you tell them, look, the chances of that are like 1 in 150,000. And they look at you and they think, I don't care if the chances are only 150,000. What if my kids die? And you think, well, yeah, that does pose a problem, doesn't it? Because it isn't exactly clear from a logical perspective where you should draw the risk line. Well, with the obsessive compulsive, you do exactly the same thing. You say, look, yeah, your fear is real, no kidding, because lurking at the bottom of their fear is the same fear that everybody else has, right? Same fear. I might die, I might get sick, I might lose the people that I love. Not only might that happen, it's going to happen. Well, why aren't people afraid of that all the time? We don't really know. An obsessive person becomes aware of it. What do you tell them? You say, do it anyway. Do it anyways. And they learn quickly that if they don't run away from the thing they're afraid of, there's something in them that responds to it. They learn that the fear is not larger than they are.